Kia ora, Helena. Your kōrero made me return to the pōheri mihi whakatau, the mention of moko moko. And I was thinking about your kōrero about the responses to racism being invisibilising or buffering, but also thinking of the responses to incarceration within the whānau. And I think, Kalei, you both talked about going into a silence. And one of my friends, a friend of mine, as a young adult, took on the surname Moko Moko because they refused to visibilise their link to Moko Moko. This is before he got pardoned, but they wanted to, shout out, this is us, this is our tupuna. We're not going to invisibilise our whakapapa any longer. So kia ora for that, I think, making those links back to the, and he pānga hoku ki Taranaki, so maumahara ki a rātou kua mauhere. So kia ora mō tō kōrero, tātuku atu.
E te whānau, tēnā koutou, tēnā rā koutou katoa. E oku rangatira, e oku wahine toa. Nei rā te mihi atu ki a tātou katoa, e hui hui mai nei roto i tēnei whare wānanga, i runga i tēnei rā whakahirahira, e pānei o tātou kaupapa whakahirahira, no reira tēnā tātou katoa. Ko waia hau no hea hau, i te taho tōku pāpā no tūhoia hau, i te taho tōku koka ngō Ngāti Parau, rongo whakata, te aitanga hauati, Ngāti Kahununu ki Wairoa o ku iwi, ko tōku nei ingoa, ko tāhui pare Tui Ah Loo hau, he ingoa mōhio ko Tui Ah Loo hau, ko au te tumu whakarai o te pā. No reira, tēnā koutou katoa. Kia ora everyone. I enrolled as a participant and the next minute I'm on the panel with, distinguished academics. I am not an academic, definitely not an academic, and I was thinking, how did I get set up like this? And so I didn't really know what I was going to talk about today. I thought I was just going to turn up, be put on a couch and be asked questions. And I soon realised that wasn't the case as I listened to our beautiful Hawaiian sisters presenting. And I thought, gee, I better get my act together here. So what I do want to talk about is te pā. And I know this kaupapa is about, the pipeline from the school to prison, and that I'm not a subject expert on the pipeline from schools to prison. I'm a bit of an expert on the intergenerational pipeline of incarceration. That is what I live for, what I breathe for. And when we talk about this pipeline, people talk about the system being broken. Let me tell you, it is not broken. It is being designed this way. It is being designed to incarcerate the wairua of our people. And unfortunately, my organisation has grown exponentially since I took over in 2012 to now. I've gone from 12 staff to nearly reaching 100. People should be proud of growth in their organisation. I'm not proud of that growth. It's off the backs of my people. But if anyone's going to grow, it's going to be te pā. I will fight to make sure that our people have equal access to power, control, autonomy, resources. And so I am intentional, purposeful, unapologetic about disrupting, about blowing up the pipeline of intergenerational incarceration. So when we talk about system change, I talk about evolutionary change. So I just want to share a little bit of a journey. And I was listening to our Hawaiian tuakana speaking, and I was writing all these notes, and I wanted to feed off everything you said. And then I'm listening to Kylie, listening to Margie, listening to everyone speak, and I wanted to feed off. And I thought, no, I'm going to be all over the place. I'm going to be in a state of mauri rere. I'm going to be flying all around the room. Mauri tau, come on, just, anchor yourself. So the way I do that best is by having a PowerPoint, because then it keeps me on track. Otherwise, I'm going to rangi Tui Ah Loo and back. So when you want me off, do this, give me the signal and I'll get off. Otherwise, I will talk forever. So who is Te Pā? I'm not going to assume, and I want to acknowledge Papa. I want to acknowledge Papa, Prisons Against Aotearoa, people against prisons Aotearoa. We all know prisons are a moral and fiscal failure, and yet we keep building more prisons. And this government, what do they want to do? They want to build more prisons to house our rangatahi, the very people who are in one of those pipelines, one of those sewers. So I just want to talk a little bit about who we are. So nau mai, haere mai, whakatau mai, ki te pātū wata wata o te pā. We all know, well, most of us know, I'm not going to assume, we know what a pātū wata wata is. It is a fortified pā, and that's why we have this tohu on the front of our t-shirts to represent that we are a fortified pā, that we specialise in supporting our incarcerated whānau, whether they are mums, dads, the rangatahi, our people being returned from overseas who are labelled 501s. We want to call them returnees. They're returned citizens. They're our people. They just happen to come back under the 501 Act. So we specialise in the incarcerated whānau. And our aim is to disrupt that pipeline, the pipeline of intergenerational disadvantage, so that our people can be the rangatira they were destined to be. We were all born rangatira, each and every one of us. And for whatever reason, our paths have taken us down a different trajectory, a different life course, but let me reassure you, everyone is a rangatira. And I go back to that song, He Kāka Noa Hau, I ruia mai I rangiatia, for I will never be lost. I am a seed, born of greatness, descended from a line of chiefs. He kāka no koe, you are a seed, born of greatness. And that is what we do with our people. We remind them that they come from a whakapapa. They come from someone. They come from a rangatira. They are a rangatira. But for whatever reason, something has happened in their journey, and we've talked about it. It's called trauma. It is patu nako, the deepest soul wound one can feel. And that is what has happened to our people. And it has, and how we are responding to it as a society is to penalise patu nako, is to incarcerate patu nako. And what is that doing? Nothing. So all this money that is going into building these prisons and incarcerating the wairua of our people is just manifesting and growing that patu nako. We need to change the investment and move it into therapeutic hubs, therapeutic intervention. So I want to talk about our evolutionary journey. We talk about systems change, but I want to talk about the evolutionary change of our organisation. Why? Because how can we work with the people we're working with and help them reveal a different reality, help them emancipate themselves, if we can't even do it for ourselves as an organisation? So our history, our colonial history, goes back to 1877. So we come from the Patients and Prisoners Aid Society, going way back in 1877. We then move on to 1899, where we were the Auckland Discharge Prisoners Aid Society, established with close connections to the newly emergent city missions. So you can see, you know, the hāhi coming in there. In 1946, we then saw a major change where we become the Auckland Society, incorporated under the Religious, Charitable and Educational Trust Acts 1908, governed by churches, ratified as approved organisations. So we were governed by the hāhi, going back to our colonial history. In 1959, we saw a rationalisation of all of the various national groups incorporated, and they all come together under this body called the New Zealand Prisoners Aid and Rehabilitation Society, NZPARS. So it was about aiding the poor prisoner, aiding the poor soul of the prisoner. Coming into 1960, the Auckland branch, who we, you know, sit under, was changed again to the Prisoners Aid and Rehabilitation Society of the Auckland District and Corporation. Really big mouthfuls, you know, these really big words, very deficit. 1966, our branch decided to include two mana whenua, Ngāti Whātua and Tainui. So they were ratified as additional approved organisations. And when the trouble started was when I landed and become the CEO. So in 2012, I land in this organisation called the Auckland Prisoners Aid, blah, blah, blah. And I'm going, what a deficit mouthful. Why are we called that? Who are we? Why are we governed by the churches? And so what I found was we had 7 church groups up here governing us, and 2 mana whenua. And I go, something's wrong with this picture. Can you see what's wrong with this picture? You know, where is the mana orite? Where is the balance in this? So from 2012 to 2019, I went about an evolutionary journey emancipating us from our colonial history. It took me a while. You might think, shit, that's a long time. I was fighting for survival in that time. I was fighting against a punitive Western system that wanted to penalise our people. I came in with rose-coloured academic glasses. I'd come from Whare Wānanga or Awanuiarangi. I'd come from Unitec. I'd come from transformational spaces, and I'd come into this punitive space. And I wanted to get the hell out of there. Within a month, I was on the phone looking for jobs, you know. And I went and I applied for jobs. I even applied back to Awanuiarangi and never got the job. And there was a reason for that. You know, I applied for 3 jobs. I should have got it. I was over-experienced. I wasn't meant to leave. Somebody was keeping me in this organisation. So for the first 4 or 5 years, I scrapped with the government, I scrapped with corrections, I had FU conversations, with all due respect, FU. So, you know, I had FU conversations, left, right and centre. I fought for my people. I fought so that my people could have mana orite at least, that they could have equal access to power, control, autonomy, resources. And then one day in 2018, I went back home to my people of Tūhoe to visit a very famous artist cousin of mine. You might know him, Tamiiti. So anyhow, Tame and I had coffee in Robert Harris in Whakatane. And if you know Robert Harris, everyone goes to Robert Harris, you know, you go to Robert Harris in Whakatane, Tame rolls up, you know, and has gumboots. And anyhow, we had this kōrero about something else. But the important thing is, as I was driving back from Ruatoki, back to Tamaki Makaurau, I was still in the Mātātua Waka Rohe, and I was coming up to Tauranga Moana, just about to drive into Ngāti Maru territory, and this word dropped into my psyche, and it was pā tu wata wata. So I'm driving, and I'm talking to myself, saying, oh, so you want me to develop a pā tū wata wata. So you want me to fortify the pā for our people. Okay, I'll do that. So I get back to Auckland, I go, right, I meet my board and I go, excuse me, I want to develop a pā tū wata wata. I want to fortify the pā because our people are in crisis. And you all know the negative stats, but I'm just going to remind you, we are 4 to 5 times more likely to be apprehended, prosecuted and convicted for a criminal offence. We are 11 times more likely to be remanded in custody, and we are 7 times more likely to be sentenced. And the pipeline that is waiting for us, 65% of our babies in Oranga Tamariki are ours. You move into the youth justice facility, 70% of the youth in youth justice are our kids, and then you look at the prisons, over 50% are male, over 60-something% are wahine. So there's our trajectory mapped out for us. That system is designed for us to keep us incarcerated. So I had this call to action to develop a fortified pā, a pā tū wata wata for our people. I went to my board and they said, yep, go do it, go do what you're going to do. So I then decided, where was I going to do that? So I went to, and it's disappeared, so it won't come up. Anyhow, where am I going to develop this pā tū wata wata? You have to feel the whenua, you have to have an awa, a river, a maunga, and I went back to Unitec. The reason I went back to Unitec to develop this pā tū wata wata revealed itself to me. And that was in 2019. My girl and I, who's in this room, my whāngai that I've raised, Hannah, who's also my advisor. You know, she is my advisor. We talk about rangatahi, listening to our rangatahi. Well, she's my advisor. I need her because our rangatahi are the way of the future. Her and I went back to Unitec in 2019. Don't forget, cut me off when you're ready. I'll hurry it up. And we went to the wharenui to pay respects because that wharenui was the moimoia, the wawata of my late father. We paid respects to this kōhatu, this kōwhai tree dedicated to my late mother and my late father. Then we traversed up Te Puna o Wairaka, and my girl's doing a karakia as we're going up the puna. And we got to this bridge that was also dedicated to my late father. And I said to my girl, Bub, remember that kōhatu that's across the bridge? And she goes, yeah. And I go, let's walk across the bridge and find it. And it was covered over by all of this flax, all of this harakeke. And I parted the flax. And there was this Maumaharas plaque dedicated to my late father. And it said, he pā tū wata wata, he tohu rangatira. The sign of a chief is a fortified pā. And I went, kia ora, Dad. So my father had sent me this message from beyond the veil to create a fortified pā for our incarcerated whānau. I'm not going to use that word mauhere because that means, you know, to come from shackles. I hate that word. So I went about this evolutionary journey with my girl, with my board at the time. We went into a 2-day wānanga. We visualised this pā tū wata wata. But what happened in that 2-day wānanga, one of the mana whenua representatives said to the tangata tiriti board members, are we fit for purpose to govern a pā tū wata wata? You could have cut the air with a knife. My board imploded, absolutely imploded. They turned on me, turned on each other. My board chair at the time said to me, why do we need to change? We're all one people. Māori are only 15% of the population. And I said to him, take off your white privileged lens and see the world through my eyes. And he said, I don't think I can work with you. And I said, well, I can work with you. You just need to remove your privileged lens. So he resigned. Then another board member resigned. And they were Māori. But their lens was the hāhi, lens. And I held that person to account because that person went behind my back to my staff to try and take me out. So I held them to account across the table. So one of my many sayings is, stand for something or fall for nothing. I stand for our people, and I will not fall for anything. Another one of our negative stats is, if you are the mukapuna, the child of a prisoner, you are 9 times more likely to become incarcerated yourself. Not on my bloody watch. I have mukapuna that are children of prisoners. They are not going to become a prisoner themselves. It is up to each and every one of us to change their life course trajectory, because the narrative out there says they are going to be a prisoner. Not on our watch. It's up to us. Don't rely on anyone else. You are responsible in your own whānau for holding whānau to account. Yeah. So I'll end shortly. Yeah, I'll end. Yeah, I'm going to end now. So welcome to Te Pā, and I'm looking forward to hosting our Hawaiian whānau in Te Pā a Pōpō. Kia ora tātou.